Welcome to Rick's Corner. I got Jerry Branham back, and today we want to talk about proteins because there's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of what do you take, what kind of protein, how much do you take according to your body weight. Does protein really build muscle? Can you store protein as fat? Does it affect the kidneys? There's all types of things that Jerry knows that I think we should talk about, right?
Right, absolutely.
So that being said, let's talk about protein.
Okay, let's go into the essentials real quick. This is stuff that probably people know, but we have to get it out of the way.
Right.
There's 20 amino acids, right? 9 of them are essential. Essential means that you have to get them in food. You can't make it they can't be made in the body.
Right.
The other amino acids are important. A lot of people hear them called unessential. That's really a misnomer. They're all useful. It's just that they can be made in the body from the essential amino acids and lipids and carbs. In other words, the body can kind of put them together.
Right.
The essentials are important, right? There's a lot of controversies, as you just pointed out, with protein. Like, how much should you take? I mean, I remember when I was a kid, you probably heard this too, Rick. As far back as like 50 years, I've been hearing something about you can't have more than, you ever hear this one? You can't have more than 30 grams of protein per meal.
I've heard this.
And I, when I started to get into the science many years ago, I tried to find the source of it, and I couldn't find it. I checked every biochemistry book. I spoke to nutrition professors. Nobody really knew. In fact, a couple of them said, "Where'd you get that from?"
Right.
And I said, "Well, I don't know." And I came to the conclusion that it's bogus. That somebody just pulled it out of the air. And I remember having a little debate with a pharmacy intern, and he came up with it. He says, he wasn't a bodybuilder, but he saw that I was working. He says, you can't take in more than 30 grams of protein at a time. I said, "Where'd you hear that?" He says, "Oh, it's a fact." I said, "Really? I'll tell you what, I'll make you a bet." I said, "I'll bet you 10 grand. I said, "If you can prove it, I'll give you 10 grand.
Right.
Now, here's the interesting part. If that happened today, I would lose.
Really?
Because guess what? The research over the years. Now, let me just segue into something else. How many times have you heard guys talk about how they eat 3, 4, 5, 600 grams of protein?
I hear it.
I remember interviewing Nasser El Somebody, who passed away about a year or two ago, and I said, "Nasser, how much protein do you eat a day?" He says 600 grams. He says he eats 8 to 12 meals, 600 grams. And I'm thinking, can the body use that much? And the answer is absolutely not. The body is limited. What the studies have shown, and I'll give you a range of protein. The amount of protein needed to build muscle is 1.2 to 1.7 grams per kilogram of body weight. Kilogram is 2.2 pounds. Now, there's 2 exceptions to the rule. One of them is if you're on a diet and you're on very low calories, very low carbs, your protein has to go up. It has to go up, otherwise you're going to lose lean mass.
Sure.
So in that situation, you want to move it up all the way, sometimes as much as 3 grams per kilogram.
Okay.
Or another way of doing it, you can go to about maybe 2.5, which equals about 1 gram per pound of body weight. That's a simple rule of thumb. Whatever you want to weigh, you want to compete at 200, go for 200 grams of protein. If you have that much protein, you're more than covered. Now, there's other studies that show, to make it even more confusing, there are a number of studies that have come out in the last couple of years that actually, they took bodybuilders, they had them work, usually a leg workout, then they measured the actual protein used for muscle building. In other words, the muscle protein synthesis.
Right, they can do that?
Yeah, they have new techniques where it's much more exact. They were able to figure out exactly, they gave these, they used egg protein. They gave them 10, 20, or 40 grams, and they measured the fate of the protein. What they found is that muscle protein, these are young guys, muscle protein synthesis peaks at 20 grams at a time. In other words, when they gave them 40, anything over 20 was oxidized. Again, there's one exception to the rule though. About a year later, they did the same kind of study with guys over 40, and they noticed something. The 20 grams was not enough. Now, if you're over 40, you want to go for as much as maybe 30, 40 grams per.
I heard that too, yeah.
Because, and then there's a reason for it. It has to do with something called anabolic resistance. The anabolic resistance of aging. As you get older, see, the ability to digest and absorb protein, that stays with you for life.
Sure.
As long as you're working out, you're gonna. The problem is the amino acids getting into the muscle. That's called anabolic resistance. And the interesting thing is nobody knows the cause. There's 2 theories. One of them is excess inflammation, systemic inflammation, low grade, where you don't feel it, but it's affecting you. The other one is, believe it or not, a mild insulin insensitivity. Because remember we did that arginine video, and I mentioned how insulin stimulates nitric oxide.
Exactly, yeah.
It stimulates blood flow into the muscle. So the insulin, by stimulating the blood flow, pushes nutrients into the muscle. So if your muscle is relatively insulin insensitive, the aminos are not going to get it at the same, let's say, extent that they do as a younger person. So what's the answer? There's two ways around it. This is very important to you guys over 40. The one thing is that, first of all, you're going to have to have more grams of protein per serving. You don't want to go over 40 because any more than that, it's just going to be oxidized, meaning it's going to be burned up in the liver. It's not going to be used.
Is it ever stored as fat?
We'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
I mean, that's my next thing.
Okay.
But the other thing you want to do, the most important, now all the aminos are important now, but I want to point out one thing that's important. For muscle protein synthesis, it's the essential amino acids. The non-essentials aren't even involved. You've got to have the essential amino acids. And if you were to single out, if you said to me, of all these essential amino acids, which one is the key? It's called leucine. It's one of 3 branched chain amino acids. The others are isoleucine and valine. Leucine is the key to muscle protein synthesis. It turns on a process called mTOR, which involves a cascade of signaling factors, and boom, 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 there's your protein synthesis. But here's the key point. Without going into, I'm not going to go into the details of the biochemistry, but the point is, they found, and this is very, very interesting, with leucine is so potent at stimulating muscle protein synthesis, and the dose, by the way, is 2.5 grams. 2.5 grams. Now, if you're taking a good whey protein, which is 16% branched chain amino acids, you're automatically going to get that much leucine, right? But older guys might want to consider taking a little extra because it turns out the leucine overcomes the natural anabolic resistance of aging. In other words, it basically puts you right on par with your younger peers. If an older man takes a little extra leucine, adds it maybe to a protein drink, or takes it between meals, his protein synthesis is going to be exactly the same as a guy 20 years old, even if he's 40 or 50 years old, right?
Do you find it in branched chain aminos?
You find it in a branched chain, but leucine is the main one. The other ones are good too. Okay, isoleucine stimulates glucose.
Well, can you take the powdered branched chain aminos and add it to your protein?
You can add it to your protein, but they do sell leucine. I take leucine alone.
I've seen it alone.
They sell it as a powder.
You can actually buy it at Trader Joe's.
Yeah. All you need is 2.5 grams. And another interesting thing about leucine is, see, muscle protein synthesis, no matter how many amino acids you take, it only lasts for 2 hours, and then it stops, right? Now if you eat a food meal, right, the amino acids after digestion will last in your blood for 5 hours. That's why you want to get protein in about every 5 hours, because the protein after a meal will last 5 hours. But the protein synthesis only lasts 2. Now you say, well, wait a minute. If the amino acids are still floating around there after 2 hours, is there a way to tap into them, make them leucine again? If you take leucine, let's say 2 hours after you eat a meal, or maybe by the 3-hour point, you take another 2.5 grams, it extends the time of multi, so it goes all the way to 5 hours.
So it takes that protein that's there after all that time and utilizes it.
Exactly,
wow,
right.
I didn't know that.
Now here's another interesting thing I just want to mention real fast. They did a study a couple of years ago. Now this was untrained gut people. They weren't working out, they weren't bodybuilders, but they gave them 2 meat meals. One of them was a 4-ounce steak about the size, what the dietitians recommend, about the size of the palm of your hand. And they call that a moderate portion. It contained 30 grams of protein. The other meal was a large steak, almost a pound, contained 90 grams of protein. Again, they measured the extent of protein synthesis after the meal. Both meals increased muscle protein synthesis by 50%, which is great, right? But here's the interesting part. There was no difference between eating 30 grams and 90 grams. What happened was, after 30 grams, again, the protein was oxidized. It wasn't used. Now, getting back to your question about fat, that's when you read the textbooks or you go online, a lot of these dietitians and so-called experts, they say, well, protein contains a gram of protein contains 4 calories per gram, and any amount of anything you with calories can make you fat. So if you overeat protein, guess what? You're going to get fat. Not true, right? There was a study in the Journal of American Medical Association with regular people, again, not bodybuilders. They had them on 3 different popular low-carb, high-protein diets. They measured the extent of fat. No matter how much protein these people ate, there was no fat accretion whatsoever. Second, a recent study with bodybuilders, they gave them 4.4 grams per kilogram of body weight. Remember, we only talked about the limit. That's 5 times more than the recommended daily allowance for the average person, which is 0.8 grams per kilogram. They gave 5 times more. They measured. There was no change in body composition. Not 1 drop of fat. Nothing. What happens is very simple. I used to tell people that if you're active, don't worry about getting fat from protein because it's going to be oxidized. But now I've corrected that, because now I realize it happens with everybody. The body does not store protein as fat. forget about it. If anyone tells you that, walk away. Second thing they say about protein, about how it leaches calcium for your bones, ruins your bones. That's another old wives' tale. And that was based on giving pure protein to animals. Well, you know, and what happens is when you give pure protein with nothing else, pure protein, it tends to pull a little calcium out because protein, remember, amino acids are acids, they're acidic, and the calcium is a natural buffer. So if you take a lot of pure protein, the body's going to sense the acidity, and it's going to kick out, if you're not getting enough calcium, especially, it's going to take the calcium through different hormonal, parathyroid, blah, blah. It's going to pull the calcium from the bones, and you know, what happens is that calcium is going to be excreted, right? But the important point is that's pure protein. What they found is, as long as a mineral called phosphate is present, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Your body does not touch the calcium. Think about it: meat loaded with phosphate. Every protein food contains phosphate. It's like nature is already protecting you.
Already, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then the third big bugaboo. And I think you asked me about this a long time. The kidney factor.
Right.
That's something I get all the time. People are always worried. Hey, I've heard that eating a high.
Oh, listen, I only have one kidney. I know.
Kidney.
And people, oh, you eat too much protein, it's going to affect your kidney. It never has yet.
Right.
That I know of.
Right. Here's the truth. You know, it's amazing. It's amazing how this started. I mean, but you still all online. You still hear, oh, well, you know, these dietitians. It's going to destroy your kidneys. That protein, it's going to kill your kidneys.
I just heard this from a guy in the gym yesterday.
Okay, here's the truth. The truth is, the original study was by a researcher named Brenner. Now, he what happened is he looked at people, this is going to make you laugh, they were already in kidney failure. They had severe kidney problems. And he noticed when they took protein, what happened is it got worse. And because what happens is, see, your kidneys need a little bit higher blood pressure to filter the blood. But it's very, very well balanced. If the blood pressure is too low in the kidneys, they start to fail.
Sure.
And if it's too high, it destroys the filtering units, the nephrons, right? Now, when you eat protein, your blood pressure, because of the byproducts of protein metabolism like urea, it temporarily increases the blood pressure in the kidney. The theory was that a lifetime of eating high protein, like a bodybuilder would do, that constant kind of spike in blood pressure would slowly destroy these nephrons. So by the time you're maybe 60, you have basically no kidneys left.
Right.
And they point to studies of the average. You have to understand, the average person over 65 only has 40% of the kidney function left, right?
I don't know. Is that what I have?
No, but here's the key. But you're a perfect example of what I'm about to say. You only need one kidney to be healthy.
Right. True.
In other words, your nature, again, gave you overcompensated by giving you two.
Right.
So even though these people have 40% less kidney function, there's no symptoms. Nothing. There's no symptoms. The only time it gets bad is if they start to slip into, you know, where it starts to go, it's measured by their protein in the urine, and this thing called, I can't remember it offhand, but it starts, I think it's albumin, it starts to go up, you know, and that's an indication where you are heading into kidney failure. That happens under certain conditions, but generally speaking, it's a completely false premise. And the other question I'm asked very often is, how much protein should women eat? Like, let's say women athletes, women bodybuilders. I mean, Rick, you know that women bodybuilders and these fitness girls in the bikini, they train just as hard as the guys.
They're doing the same thing the guys do.
And the answer is just common sense. They need just as much protein.
Sure.
They get the same, but because of their smaller size, very rarely do you see even a female bodybuilder that's 240 pounds.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, if she was, it would scare the hell out of me, actually. But the thing is, it goes by body weight. See, it goes by body weight. So they need the same amount of protein, which is a 1.7.
According to their body weight.
Yeah, according to their body weight. That's how it works.
When you have protein in the urine, how do you counter that?
How do you counter that? Well, if it's protein, it's called microalbuminuria, and unfortunately, that is the first stage of kidney problems. Okay. It's called microalbuminuria, and it means that when your body starts to throw off protein, that means something is usually a little inflammation in the kidney. The solution is simple. Unfortunately, it involves a drug. You take these things called, you take a very low dose of what they call a ACE inhibitor. It's like a 2.5, lisinopril is one of them. You take 2.5 milligrams, it completely corrects it.
I take lisinopril.
Yeah, it completely corrects it.
It's actually a blood pressure medication.
It's a blood pressure medication.
Yeah.
See, what it does It works. Remember we talked about the blood pressure
Yeah.
in the kidney? It basically normalizes. It's just enough to normalize the blood pressure, so it kind of takes the stress off the kidneys.
Right.
And once that happens, the inflammation drops down, and boom, it's gone.
Well, the thing with the blood pressure, just to get off that for 1 second, is
Yeah.
because I just went to a cardiologist and I had everything's checked out. My cholesterol is 130.
Right.
My blood pressure is actually normal on the
Excellent.
lisinopril. Actually, it's normal without it, but when I go to my doctor, it goes up. You know, I get that white coat syndrome.
White coat syndrome,
Yeah.
exactly.
So what he told me was because I have what they call AFib in my heart, which is an extra beat. The pressure when it's up can cause a little leakage in the heart.
Right.
And so by backing off on the pressure, the leakage will go away.
Yeah.
So it's you know, these things happen. It's
Well, let me tell you
very
another
common.
thing. When you take your blood pressure, you don't want to keep your arm down, because when you keep your arm down, it actually raises the blood
I believe
pressure.
that, yeah, because everything falls down. Gravity pulls it in.
Exactly.
Right.
So what you have to do is it has to be at like a 90-degree angle.
Right.
So if they take it down, you're going to show up higher than it really
Does it matter
is.
if it's your left arm or right arm?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
I'll tell you what does matter.
What?
The size of the cup they put on her.
Exactly. If you have big arms,
Yes.
you get a completely inaccurate
You
reading.
get a bigger cup
Yeah,
because
they have to have a larger cup.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
fact, when my arms were bigger, they tried to put one of those. They couldn't even fit it around.
well,
my
it makes the
arm.
blood pressure higher.
Yeah.
So, and then the doctor says, I just believe it's high when you come
Yeah.
in to see me. I don't think it's
Yeah.
high all the time.
Yeah.
And then if I take the lisinopril, and if it's normal, then it drops it down lower.
Exactly.
And then you get tired.
Right. Oh, there's one thing I want to add before I forget.
Right.
A lot of guys will go for these blood tests.
Yeah.
Or urine tests, I should say. And you know, the doctor will call them next day and say, "Mr. Drasin, your test came back, and I think you need to come in for a kidney biopsy."
Yeah.
And you'll say, "Well, what's going on?" They say, "Well, you got an elevated creatinine level."
Oh, I've had that.
You know, and you scratch your head, and well, doc, what does that mean? Well, that means that your kidneys are starting to fail. So we have to take a little piece of the kidney and find out. Here's what you got to tell them: if you're on creatine, you got to tell them, because when you're on creatine, what does creatine break down to? Creatinine. So especially if you have a urine test done while you're on the so-called creatine load, which is like, you know,
Right.
6 teaspoons of creatine a day, 30 grams, you're going to throw off 40% of it as creatinine.
Creatinine it's called, right?
Yeah.
And that and SGOT levels.
Right.
They'll rise up, especially if you're on anabolics too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So
especially
they're,
liver.
They're not harmful, but they'll elevate. The minute you go off, they go down.
Yeah. Well, there's 2 liver enzymes. One of them is SGOT, which
Right.
goes by a different name now. The other one I think is called AST now. But anyway, the thing is,
Yeah.
these 2 enzymes are also released from not just the liver, but from the heart and muscles.
Right.
And
Right, yeah.
And now, we all know, everybody knows, when you work out, you're breaking down some muscle tissue.
Right.
And when you break down the muscle tissue, these enzymes are released.
And they go through the body.
And they go in the body. So if you have a blood test done, let's say within 48 hours,
Right.
they're going to be slightly elevated. And again, the doctor's going to say, well, Mr. Drasin, you have an elevation of 2 liver enzymes. I think we should take a liver biopsy.
I know. It's
But
like,
it's completely normal. And here's how you know. Because those are the only 2 enzymes affected, right? There's like 4 or 5 other liver enzymes.
Right.
If they're normal,
then you're normal.
then you're normal.
Yeah, doctors are very alarming. I mean, I have this
Yeah.
extra beat, and he says they can zap it with the paddles and
Yeah.
bring it back, and then you don't have to take blood thinners and all
Right.
that. Or you can stay on the blood thinners if you want, which I
Right.
don't really want to do. But they tell you all the options you have, and they kind of alarm you sometimes. And when you go in there, you're scared to death.
Right.
You're going to get tested. So I drove across the Beverly Hills one day, and traffic, and it was all blocked up. I said, my blood pressure is going to be 300 over
Oh,
200
yeah.
because of the stress of
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
there. And I got there, and he says, you're normal.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Right.
I'm so stressed out now, I just can't even think.
Well,
but it was normal.
Let me tell you real quick another common question about protein.
Yeah.
What's the best protein?
That I was going to ask you.
Okay, what's the best protein? Because you have a lot of choices these
Right.
days. I mean, you have the pea protein, you have the hemp protein for
Right.
the vegetarians, all this and that, and of course you got the soy protein, and you got the egg.
I'm not a
protein.
vegetarian, but I'm a vaginitarian.
A vegetarian.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, that's good. Got a lot of fatty acids in
Yeah.
it. Anyway, and of course you got there's a lot of confusion. They go, these guys are whay protein,
Right,
and you
right.
got casein protein. All right,
Yeah.
I'm going to say it real fast. Milk protein has 2 basic proteins. I didn't mean to spit on you.
So I like it.
I give you a little show. It has whey and it has casein, right?
Okay.
It's 80% casein, 20% whey, right? Whey is funny because years ago. It was like a byproduct of cheese man. They used to throw it away. It would be.
Isn't cottage cheese the same?
Yeah, cottage cheese is casein. It's
Casein,
almost pure
casein,
casein.
right, okay.
It's almost pure. It's like eating casein,
It's a
right?
good protein.
Yeah, because and if you want to see what casein looks like, that's what it looks like. It looks like cottage cheese because it curdles in the body.
Right.
But here's the deal: whey, they used to throw it away. Then actually, it happened in 1930. A guy named Eugene Schiff. Remember the Schiff vitamin
Yes, I
company?
do.
This is the guy who founded it. He's the first guy to look at whey and realize, wait a minute, this stuff is good stuff. He didn't know how good it was, but he made a very crude whey protein in the mid-30s. It tasted like crap, and it never caught on, and it was like discarded. It made a comeback, as you know, maybe in the 90s. I think it was Next Nutrition, all these other companies, right? Whey is like probably the best protein for a bodybuilder, because it's very high. Remember I said it's 16% branched chain amino. It's got loaded with essential amino acids. It's like the perfect protein for building muscle, right? Now the second question is, there's three kinds of basic whey. There's whey protein concentrate, there's whey protein isolate, and there's whey hydrolysate. Which one should you take? Okay, it depends on what you're looking for. The whey protein concentrate is the cheapest, right? The only problem with whey, it varies between 25 and 80% protein, 25% to 80%. What's the problem with whey protein concentrate? Only one. It's higher in lactose. Some people get gas and bloated, right? When you take the whey.
Exactly.
So then now the other kind, the whey protein isolate, is about 90% protein, has almost less than 1% lactose. That's probably the best single whey protein to get. It has what they call the whey biopeptides, which are, besides the whey protein, they have a lot of health benefits. One of them actually lowers blood pressure. There's a natural peptide in the whey that lowers your blood pressure, as well as drugs, believe it or not. The third one, hydrolysate, that's, remember the pre-digested proteins we had years ago?
Yes, I do.
Whey hydrolysate is basically pre-digested whey protein.
Somebody eats it, spits it out, and pours it back in the body.
Yeah, that's what it tastes like. It's got the worst taste, but it does have one advantage. Of all the whey, whey is a very quick-acting protein. See, between the two proteins, whey and casein, whey is absorbed very fast, peaks in about 60 minutes, it's gone in 90 minutes, right? Now, the casein, it curdles. Remember, in the body, it looks like cottage cheese. That breaks down over 7 hours. That's like a very slow. What they found is, the faster you can get the amino acid to muscle, the greater the protein synthesis. So whey is king for protein synthesis. That's the main. But it turns out that the casein, because of that very slow trickling release of amino acids, that actually has an anti-catabolic effect. It kind of opposes cortisol. It helps your muscles grow. So if you take it at night, theoretically, they've done a study. It actually will help your muscles grow.
I've heard this,
And casein is also good. Let's say you don't have time to take 14 protein drinks a day. You can only take 2. If you take a milk protein that has whey and casein, you're going to have an extended effect. So you don't have to worry about taking 14 protein drinks a day, right? Now, so the hydrolysate, the deal is it's very quick. It's even quick. It's the quickest acting of all. It's in your body in a snap, right? There's some initial studies. Remember Scott Connolly from Metro? He tried to. He made a deal with a New Zealand company. He tried to come out with a very, very high quality whey hydrolysate, but it kind of tanked because he was selling it for like $150 a can. It didn't go. This was at the height of the economic depression, just bad timing. But the thing is, he showed a couple of studies that if you take this stuff, normally it takes 24 to 48 hours to recover. That's, by the way, how long muscle protein synthesis occurs. 24 in an advanced guy, and believe it or not, in a beginner, it actually goes on longer, because beginners actually use protein better than advanced guys. That's an odd quirk. In other words, the more advanced you are, they use it less efficiently than advanced. Because the more advanced you are, the more efficient you get at utilizing protein.
Right.
So beginners actually need more protein than advanced guys, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I lost my train of thought there.
Well, tell me about this. What about milk and egg protein?
Milk and egg protein. Well, that was of course the standard when we were back in the.
I still have a lot of it. I was going to go back.
Milk and egg protein. Where you're talking about Blair's protein, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, I have the whey, I have the casein, and I see that sometimes over a period of time I get used to taking it. Yeah. So I want to switch it up a bit. Right. Just like I would switch my workout. So now I just broke out a bottle of milk and egg.
Milk and egg is excellent. I mean, because remember before whey, egg was the king. Egg was the #1 protein. It's a high biological value, and by the way, remember we talked about the whole. You always want to eat the whole eggs. You don't want to eat only egg white. I always eat the yolks. But interestingly enough, most of the egg proteins are actually egg white, the dehydrated egg white.
All right, one more thing before we close. Yeah. On amino acids, they come in different powders. And there's a new company out that has an amino acid that's supposed to be the best there is, because they said some of the amino acids you buy are made from human hair and chicken feathers, duck feathers.
Collagen.
Yeah. Is that true?
About the amino acids?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it come from that?
It could be.
Okay.
But I mean, you're talking about collagen. See, collagen, your hair and your nails and all that stuff.
Is an amino acid.
Hooves.
Right.
It's a protein. It's your connective tissue protein. Okay. This is the main protein.
So they can bring that down to make an amino acid out of it.
Right. In other words, they melt it down. Right. They they can make amino acids. The problem with collagen, or gelatin, for example, is collagen. Right. is that it's lacking one essential amino acid, L-tryptophan.
Okay.
So if they add L-tryptophan to the other amino acids, then it becomes just as good as a milk protein.
Okay.
Now, if you're talking amino acids, I'm not talking about but if you want all the quality in one,
right,
where it's automatically there, then you go to like milk and egg, whey and egg protein, all that stuff.
Okay.
And one thing I want to say, it's kind of important. A lot of people are confused about soy protein.
Oh yeah, that was another one.
Yeah, they have this idea that, and the word is that it has a stuff in it that it's like estrogen.
Right.
And that's partially correct. It has these elements called isoflavones. Genestine's one of them. And basically, it's structurally similar to estrogen. But here's the important point. It's only 1/10,000th the potency of regular estrogen, right?
Right.
So the bottom line is that you would have to eat a crap load of soy to get any kind of estrogenic effect. I'm talking a lot.
But can you gain muscle on soy as well as you
can? Yes, you can. Well, no. I have to amend that.
It's different.
No, whey protein whey protein is in every study after study is definitely superior to soy. Now, where does soy come in that time release stuff? Soy is an intermediate protein, not as fast as whey, not as slow as casein. It's kind of right in between. It has almost as much branched chain amino acids as whey, not as much.
And it's cheaper.
It's cheaper. It's a lot cheaper. The newest trend, see, there's something going on in the industry. As whey has gone, it's like supply and demand. Because of the popularity of whey, the actual wholesale price has like burgeoned. It's really expensive now. So what they've done, the industry, they're kind of sneaky. A lot of the companies that sell whey proteins, they instead of actually putting in whey protein isolate, they still put it on the label. Remember we talked about those proprietary forms?
Yeah.
What they do is they switched around the proportions. Like the label will say whey protein isolate, and then it'll say whey protein concentrate.
Right.
Whereas before it used to be mostly whey protein isolate. Now they switched it around where it's now mostly whey protein concentrate. Remember, that has lactose.
Right.
So a lot of guys you'll see online, they complain, say, hey, I've been using this protein for years, and now suddenly I'm getting this bloating and water retention. What's going on? It's because it's actually whey protein. Doesn't happen to everybody. I eat whey protein concentrate, has no effect on me at all. Right?
But
now,
some people do.
Right, but the other thing is this new trend, they come out with a couple of studies where they designed a protein that contained whey, contained soy, and it contained casein, all in one, right? And guess what? They compared that to regular whey, and it was superior. It was superior because it was like a time release.
You have a blend. It's like
it's like sustenance.
That's I was just going to say. It's like
just like sustenance because you got the whey fast.
Yeah.
Whey goes down.
Yeah.
Boom. Soy kicks in.
Yep.
Soy goes down, and the casein kicks in. So if you add it up, you're going to have a tremendous anabolic effect, right?
Yeah, sure.
And there's not enough soy in there to cause any problems. So you don't have to worry about estrogen, right?
Right.
That's the good news. The bad part is that these studies were sponsored by Soy Protein companies.
Oh man, it's always a pleasure to have you here, Jerry. You guys take this and listen to it and apply it to your workouts and to your diet and see what works for you, and then write in and let us know, because I'm always curious to see how it's working. I think it's all good stuff, and I think whey proteins, I've been taking it for years. I am switching to milk and egg right now just for the next couple of weeks. I have a big bottle. I want to try it. But thank you for being here.
I just want to tell you about the my Applied Metabolics newsletter.
Yes, let's talk about that right now.
Okay, the Applied Metabolics newsletter. I mean, like the next issue coming out. I have this. I have an analysis. I'm just going to talk about this one article. There's other obviously in there, but this one article, I came across this actual. This is real stuff, right? It was given to me. It's the actual diet and drug program of a guy who placed in the top 5 of the Mr. Olympia. But more importantly than that, he got in the very best shape of his life. He was phenomenal that year. This guy, right? And I list his exact diet and I go into a complete analysis of his diet. I write what's right and what's wrong about it, and I also talk about the drugs, describe what they are, what they do, and whether I think it's right or wrong. That's just one article. So it's at Applied Metabolics. If you're interested, it's at appliedmetabolics.com. I guarantee you'll like this and you'll love this.
It's a newsletter, and it runs how much a month?
It's $10 bucks.
You got to check this out, because there's the guy. He knows it all.
Yeah.
And it's on the newsletter. And yes, I am missing a finger. Everybody writes in, did you know that Rick's finger's missing? Let me tell you something really funny. I just met my girlfriend's mother, who's over here visiting from Israel, and we met for the first time. And she's seen the show a lot. And she says to my girlfriend in another language, she says, do you know that Rick's finger's missing? And my girlfriend says, no, I never figured this out over 2 years. All right, so it's missing. I don't know where it is. It fell off one day.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to tell you. Thank you for watching Rick's Corner. Stay tuned for more. We're going to have Jerry back quite often. We'll talk about all things. If you have any ideas of what you want to hear, let us know. I'll tell Jerry and we'll bring it up. Thanks for watching Rick's Corner. See you next time.
It's rickdrasin.com. He is the equalizer, baby. See you next time.